What's up, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Chris. I'm a husband, a father, and a college pastor. And speaking of college pastor, for our college ministry, a couple of days ago, we had a night of worship. We rented out this space in a neighboring town, and we had a couple hundred students show up, and it was just an amazing night. And I set up my camera to record, and everything went great, but I forgot to do an intro. And so here I am sitting in my office a few days later recording this intro because I wanted to show you a little bit of what that night was like. Hey, I would love it if you would hit subscribe below. Thank you for continuing to go on this journey with me, and I hope you enjoy. As the band keeps playing, I love the verse that Janie just read from Hebrews 12, verse 2, where it talks about us fixing our eyes on Jesus. It talks about us setting our attention on the author, the creator, the one who initiates our faith. And that's great. It's a great idea. You should all do it. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But there are so many times that it doesn't matter how much I know I'm supposed to fix my eyes on Jesus, how much I'm supposed to fix my attention, all of my affection, all of my energy towards Christ. So much other stuff gets in the way. I get stressed out. I get worried. I start carrying all this stuff. It weighs me down. It gets heavy. And I find myself in this place where I'm like, what is going on, God? Why? Why is this happening? Why do I feel like this? Why am I struggling? Why am I dealing with this? Why am I carrying this? Like, I know I'm supposed to fix my attention on you. But then when I look around, I realize it's because I'm fixing my attention on all this other stuff. I'm carrying all this other stuff. There's this word that just, man, it's resonated with me for like 18 months. It's this word perspective. See, when I'm standing up here, I have a different perspective than the rest of you do. Like some of y'all, all you can see is the back of the head of the person in front of you. I'm sorry, it's nice because I'm tall, so I don't struggle with that very often. I just typically look over people's heads anyway. But we can see what's right in front of us, and that's often what we focus on the most. But I remember this was probably like 10, 12 years ago. I'm old. It's at least 12 years ago. And I was having one of those moments, and maybe you've had one of these moments before, where I was just like, I was done. I was just over it. Life sucked. Everything about life sucked. My relationships sucked. My home life sucked. Work sucked. My friends sucked. Everything sucked. And yes, I'm a pastor, and I'm saying it sucked a whole lot, okay? But if I'm being real, it was just one of those moments. Life was just not good, and I was standing in a parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was letting God know how much everything sucked. I was the only one there. The parking lot lights were on, and at 2 o'clock, the parking lot lights went off. I'm in kind of the middle of town, so there's still like the city glow, but all of a sudden I look up and I could see all of these stars that I couldn't see a few minutes ago because the parking lot lights were on. And so instantly, like, my perspective began to shift, and while I'm sitting there and I'm letting God know how frustrated I am and how terrible life is, I look up and I can see the moon, and I don't know, any like science majors? Not science, whatever. Any like astronomy majors in here? How big is the moon? It's big, right? The moon's big, that's all I know. I was a journalism major. Astronomy majors probably know. The moon is big, okay? Chris is not big in comparison to the moon. But I was standing in that parking lot that night, and as I held up my thumb, like I blocked out the moon and I couldn't see it anymore. And it was just one of those moments. Maybe you've had them before where something just hits you and you're like, wow. Just one of those moments where all of a sudden I realized that my perspective determined what was going on. What I could see had such a great impact on how I felt. The moon didn't shrink the instant I put my thumb up. The moon was still big. My little thumb, maybe it's a big thumb, I don't know, but my thumb was able to block out the moon because I was taking something and I was holding it up right in front of me, and all of a sudden my perspective was on what was right in front of me. And it was able to block out all this other stuff that was there all along. It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't changing. But I was able to hold something up in front of my face and keep me from seeing what it was that was happening around me. Maybe I'm the only one, but I do this all the time. I hold on to stuff, I deal with stuff, and I get stressed and I get worried, and I'm a dad now. There's a little girl running around. She's right there. Landry, say hi, Landry. She's really shy, so she's not going to. But that's Landry. That's one of my daughters. So I'm a dad now, and so, man, there's new stresses and things that worry me or whatever. But there's this verse, or a couple of verses in Philippians chapter 4 that speak to this. And I'm going to put a mic in my hand and I won't shut up. But I'm gonna be quick, okay? In Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 6, it says this. Don't worry about anything. Paul is writing this. It's super easy for him to say 2,000 years ago, right? He didn't have cell phones and the internet and biology or OChem or astronomy, right? Paul probably knew how big the moon was. I don't know. It's easy for him to say. Another translation says, don't be anxious about anything. He says, hey, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Okay. That begins to clue us in. Change your perspective, right? Instead of holding on, instead of carrying this stuff, instead of letting it bring stress and anxiety and worry and just weight to your life, like, hey, don't do that. Pray about it instead. And then he says this. He says, tell God what you need. I'm good at that, right? Like, when I pray, I'm real good at letting God know what's wrong. I'm real good about letting him in on the suck and bringing his perspective to my perspective and letting him know what is happening. He says, tell God what you need, and y'all are like, what comes after the and? I'm getting to it, okay? I just told you a minute ago I was not an astronomy major, I was a journalism major. I love words. And this word and, so often, we just look at it and it's like a 3-letter word. It's not one of those like bad 3-letter words, 4-letter words, right? It's a word we're allowed to say, but it's just like, it's a connector. It's just a this and that, right? It's just a connector word. But when Paul says and, this is huge, okay? Don't miss this. He says, hey, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. There's the perspective. There's the perspective, because he's like, hey, I get it. You have a lot of stuff going on. You're freaking out. You're worried. You're stressed. You have tests and you are failing and you just got broken up with and you lost your job and your cat got run over, whatever, right? Like, you're carrying stuff. You're anxious. You're worrying. You're freaking out about what's to come. You don't even know what's going to happen yet, and you're worrying about it. But he's like, hey, I want you to let God know. Right? Let him in. Let him know what's going on. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he's done. Because it's in that moment that it instantly brings perspective. Because when we can remember what God has done, it gives us hope that he will do it again. Our faith is actually strengthened when we begin to remember. When we think about how God has been there, how he's come through for us, how he hasn't let us down. We're still breathing. Good news, you're still breathing. The story's not over. It hasn't beat you. It hasn't defeated you. It has not won. So Paul says, hey, don't be anxious. Tell God what you need and thank him for everything that he's done. And I'm going to end with this. And then he says this. Then. It's another one of those words. Right? You've heard of if-then statements. If this happens, then that will happen. I think that's like a math thing. I don't know. Again, I was a journalism major. But if-then, like if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And he says then, and I love this, he says then you will experience God's peace. Maybe that's what you needed when you walked in tonight. Maybe that's all you need to hear. Quit freaking out. Take a deep breath. Tell God what you need. Thank him for what he's done. Thank him that you're still breathing. Thank him that you didn't get hit by a bus on the way over here. Thank him that you have a place to sleep tonight. Thank him that there are people in your life that loved you enough to invite you to this place. Thank God for what he's done, and then this is what's going to happen. Peace. Peace is going to come in and is going to change your life. And it instantly brings perspective to whatever's going on. And it keeps going, and I will stop Because if I don't stop now, I'll never stop. But I hope you hear this. Worry's going to happen. Stress is going to happen. Anxiety, depression, it's going to happen. But there's an answer. There's hope. You don't have to carry that with you everywhere. And when we will fix our eyes on Jesus, just like Janie was just reading and then that song was singing, everything else fades away. So we still have a few more songs here tonight, and I want to encourage you that if that's you tonight and you have been carrying something walking into this place, take a deep breath, tell God what you need, thank Him for what He's done, and experience His peace.